Hi. So I'm giving you a little intro to Silence of the Lambs. Um, I don't think this will be a movie that I need to do a lot of translating for you in culturally or in terms of when and how it was made. This is the sort of movie that most of you already know how to watch. It's about catching a serial killer. You know how that goes. You know that genre, okay? Um, Now, why watch this one out of all the catching a serial killer movies that there are? Um, that's the interesting question. Um, Mainly, look, this one swept the Oscars. It won Best Picture. It won Best Actor for Anthony Hopkins. It won Best Actress for Jodie Foster. It won, I think, Best Director and Best Screenplay, Adapted Screenplay. It just, I haven't looked it up, but I'm pretty sure it swept the big Oscars. Um, and I don't think you'll be surprised by that when you've watched it, though. I don't know. It's been a while since I saw it. I'm going off of memory now. I haven't rewatched it yet, though I will before Thursday. Um, Anthony Hopkins, in particular, this was a signature role. This was kind of the role of a lifetime for him. He ended up playing the same character in two other movies, but this was the first one, and this was where we met this character, and Hannibal Lecter. And most people would say that Hannibal Lecter is one of the most memorable and interesting villains in the history of the movies. And you see what you think, but that wouldn't be a hard call for most critics. Um, One thing maybe to notice with this movie, there are two things that I'll just sort of mention. One is that Hannibal Lecter isn't the serial killer they're trying to catch. He's someone they consult. And so there's a second serial killer in this, and I always feel sorry for that actor because people kind of forget about him. It's like, oh yeah, who was that guy who played Buffalo Bill? Yeah, he was all right, but nobody remembers. Buffalo Bill is the one who's active during the movie, and he's the one they have to catch. And and people forget about him. I mean, it's not like he wasn't a good movie villain, and he wasn't like he was poorly acted or anything like that. He's his own sense of good character, but it just gets so overshadowed by what Hopkins did with Hannibal Lecter that's something to notice. Um, one thing I've said to you a few times is that it's real typical in a movie. The question of what we emotionally invest in, and in a crime movie, we're obviously investing on stopping evil, and things like that, saving people, stuff like that. But I've also said that we invest in relationships in a movie. And it'll be pay attention to the ways in which we invest in the relationship between Hannibal Lecter and Clarice Starling, who's the Jodie Foster character. That relationship ends up being the thing that has stuck with me most from the movie, and I saw a long time ago. Especially the conversations between them, the back and forth between them. And it's a funny kind of it's nothing as simple as, oh, they fall in love. It's not like that, although it is like, no, it isn't. It's a very interesting relationship. And for me, that's what makes this movie more than just a crime movie. More than just something you watch because, there's a satisfying plot and you get through it and you're done with it. What stays with me in this movie is an investment in relationships. There's one other thing that I'll just sort of refer to, since it's a literary reference and you might as well have it. And who else are you going to get it from if not from me? One of the things with serial killer movies, and this is true if you see Criminal Minds, or there's things about profilers. There's this tradition. Well, it's become a tradition of the genre that to catch a monster, you in some sense need to become the monster, not so much in terms of your deeds, but in terms of your thoughts, that you have to develop empathy with them or you can't catch them. And I think that's one of the fascinations of the genre, the idea of how much evil can I bear to let inside myself in a good cause? And the sense of it, the self-sacrifice involved with that. This movie and all the movies in this little sequence, Red Dragon is the prequel to it, Hannibal is the sequel to it. They all have Anthony Hopkins playing the same character. They don't have the same opposite number for him, but he appears in all three of those movies. And they all draw on that question of, what does it mean to understand a man like this? Plus, so really, there's a tradition in epic poems like the Iliad and the Odyssey and the Aeneid and maybe not the Iliad, but the Odyssey and the Aeneid and the Divine Comedy and Paradise Lost. And there's a tradition in these major epics of the Western tradition, I think also in Gilgamesh, where the hero has to go down into the underworld. He has to descend into the underworld as part of fulfilling his quest or his mission. And what that is like. That's a staple of the epics. And I think this genre, which has people going into a different kind of underworld, draws on that tradition. I think that's one of the archetypes underlying this kind of movie. Let's see, beyond that, well, think about Clarice Starling. She's, in some sense, a harder part to play because she doesn't have all these immediately dazzling qualities to her. Think about the choices that were made when giving this movie a hero. And then also think about the choices that were made in giving this movie a villain. What is it about Hannibal Lecter that makes him such a unique and fascinating villain? People kind of couldn't get enough of him. That's why they kept making movies. As long as they could get Anthony Hopkins remotely, so he wasn't just ridiculously too old for the part, they kept bringing it out because people, in some sense, couldn't get enough of that guy. Why is that? What intrigues us about him? Why do we get caught up in that character? Okay, I want to warn you, some of the movie's gruesome. I know there's at least one part of it that I'm going to be watching through my fingers like this. And I apologize for that for any of you who are squeamish about that stuff. I always figure other people are less squeamish than I am about it. But if that's a thing for you, I apologize in advance. There's no way around it. It's that kind of movie. Beyond that, do you have anything else I think you need to hear? Whenever you get a movie that falls into a familiar genre, think about, and that movie stands out within that genre. It's always worth asking yourself why. What makes this one stand out? You've seen a million episodes of Criminal Minds. What makes this different? Okay, I'll leave you with that question. Take care. I hope you get into it.